It's not bringing the danger that you think they would. I don't know. I don't know what this book was. I'm sorry, but hello and welcome back on my channel. Thank you so much for joining me again for a wrap-up video. If you're new here, hi, my name is Cici and I read a great variation of books, and because I usually read more than 10 books in a month, I split my wrap-up into 2 different videos each month, and this is part 2 of March. And then next week on Thursday you get the first half of April already. So for some reason a lot of my footage is deleted on accident, which sucks because I usually tape my wrap-ups vlog style. I heard now that this is called, because I suck at summarizing and giving my opinion after I have read like 10 other books in between. So I usually like to just record my initial feelings, my initial feedback right after I read the book. But now I have lost, I think, 10 or 12 clips, and it sucks, but that's life. So what I'm gonna have to do is to tell you all about these again, and one more that's an ebook. Be forewarned, I suck at this when I'm not doing this. There's a reason why I usually do this vlog style, but we're still gonna try. We're gonna do our best. Okay, so let's start with Lead from the Outside. Lead from the Outside is by Stacey Abrams and is a non-fiction book with a big focus on leading as a minority. And I really enjoyed this book. I made quite a lot of markers, and I usually don't do that, but in this case I did. I think that the first half was focusing on what I expected from the book. It gave some feedback on where people that are from a minority might struggle a little bit more and how to navigate that, how to succeed in that environment. And then I feel like the second half felt a little bit less like generic leader and was more going into the either political or you're trying to build your own business startup, raising money kind of situation. And it felt more of a generic leadership advice book that is not necessarily just targeted at minorities, but pretty much anybody. There's a lot of very sound advice in it. I do suggest, if you are interested in this type of book, to read the book and not listen to it on audiobook. It's a very quick read on audiobook, and all the topics are still made brilliantly. My colleagues that have read this with me have indeed listened to it on audiobook, and they enjoyed it a lot. But what they told me is that they are missing at the end of each chapter. You have these few pages where you can do some self-reflection and see how what you just learned in that chapter applies to you. And they were missing this part, and for me this was a really crucial part of the experience and why I enjoyed the book as much as I did, because I was able to relate every single chapter in a way, except for the fundraising one. I really was able to apply this to me, see where I stand, consider where I might have been privileged in the past or even now, and where I might have had some struggles of my own, and just to see how I can better myself and position myself better. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I can absolutely recommend it if you are into business, leadership type of books. If you have read quite a few of leadership books, there will probably be quite a lot of points in here that will be repetition. Doesn't make them less valid, but it's not completely like groundbreaking new stuff. It's still a very good book. All right, so the first sentence in this one was, oh wait, this is there. In November 1994, I entered a hotel room in Jackson, Mississippi, the dusk of late autumn broken by streetlights that flickered against the window. I don't think that I expected nonfiction with that first sentence. Now we have, and I expected 4 out of 5 stars, just what I gave it. So I was right, I knew it. Next, let's talk about Aurora Rising. This is something that I cannot say with my, like, these words do not come out of my mouth. I enjoyed it. I think that it is a very predictable YA space opera. I think that there's better science fiction books out there. For example, Skyward by Brandon Sanderson feels more well-rounded. The characters feel more well-rounded. In this one, we have a bunch of characters. The premise pretty much is that we have this young hotshot guy who is best of his class, and he is, I think, the equivalent of like graduating, and he is to pick his new crew that he's going to be working with for whatever how long, and he has to be in a certain place at a certain time to pick the people of his choice. And because he is out and he is actually being distracted by something, and then he saves Aurora, who is in a cryo pod kind of thing, and he saves her, and then he misses, because of that he misses to pick his crew, and thus he is left with all the misfits, and we have all these so funny characters. And I mean this with one like wry old annoyed eye, and one, yeah, they were humoristic and sarcastic. There was enough sarcasm for me and humor. I enjoyed it. Is it technically a wonderfully good book? I don't know. I don't think it's for everyone. It's very predictable, but it was an enjoyment to read it. So I think objectively I should give it a 3-star, but somehow I had really a lot of fun, enjoyed it. So I'm giving it my emotional extra star, and it gets bumped up to 4 stars. I probably overrate this because I'm not sure if it deserves 4 stars, but it was fun, so it was. Okay, the first sentence in this one was, I'm gonna miss the draft. And by the summary I just mentioned, we all know that he will. I'm gonna miss the draft. I expected a 3.5, and I feel like that is spot on. So I was right again. I'm so tired today. I've been tired for 2 weeks now, I feel like, but let's move on. Let's move on to Clay's arc. Octavia E. Butler. I love the shit out of this series. It is a strange little series, and I do have to say that it probably is not for everyone, but boy, oh boy, I love this series so much. So chronologically, this is the 3rd in the Pattern Master series, but it is the 4th that has been written, because the one that comes last chronologically is the one that Octavia wrote first. I read it 3rd, so I'm next going to read the chronologically last one. Octavia E. Butler has an ongoing theme now that I've read the 3rd one in this series. They all play at very different times, and they're not necessarily instantly connected, but there's like some connection, like, what do you say, like one theme, but they are more or less loosely connected. In this one, we're following a single family in a desert. Is it post-apocalyptic? Not really, but like society has collapsed, and we have different types of, like, we have marauding families, and we have organ hunters. So a very dystopian, collapsed society kind of setting, and we're following one family to. It's a story of survival, and the fate of whole humanity lies on their shoulders. We have alien possession, and it is so freaking good. I know it's not for everyone. It is strange and it's different, but it's so good. And I don't know, there is like Octavia E. Butler seems to every single time come in with a trend of topics that are touching on sexuality, on race, and it has like xenophobic trends, and that seems to be the same thing in all three. I think that people can get very tired of it. I don't. I love this series so much. It is so much fun, and yeah, I just enjoy how Octavia E. Butler is able on like 200 pages to paint this very rich world, to paint this very rich, interesting story, and open up the door to so many deep, interesting topics. The question of like what it means to be human and what it means to be part of a community, and so good. Read it. Just go and read it. Okay, so the first sentence is: the ship had been destroyed 5 days before. I don't think that I expected Octavia, and I don't think that listening to it now, the ship had been destroyed 5 days ago, I don't think that I would necessarily think that this is going to be one of my favorites of the month. But let's see. There we go. This is it, and I expected 3.5. I was wrong, but honestly, this first sentence is not strong. Let's be honest. The book is, although I do think that a lot of people who love the whole series think that this is the weakest book, but that also might be, I haven't read the last one, but so far as I can tell, this had a little bit of a different vibe than the first two. So if you came here from these two and you were expecting the same vibe, you might have gotten disappointed because of that. The next one that I want to talk about is Skyward Inn. Skyward Inn I have read as an e-arc, so I don't have the physical book here, and that might be a good thing. I really wanted to love this book. I just was so pumped for it, but I had the hardest time getting into it. For the first, I'd say 2/3 to 3/4, I had no idea what was going on. I was just not able to follow what was happening. I did start to look it up, and I understood that it is a retelling of Jamaica Inn, but because I didn't know what Jamaica Inn was, that didn't help me. And it was just weird, and not in a good way weird. It wasn't strange, it just was that I have no idea what's happening weird, because I just couldn't make sense of everything. The last 50 to 70 pages, I would say, were interesting and fun, and I enjoyed it, and that bumped it back up to 3 out of 5 stars. But for the first half, I was ready to give it 1 star or 2 stars. I was ready to say, no thank you, not for me. But then, yeah, the ending got a little bit better, but I think that because the writing in the beginning dragged so much, was so slow that a lot of people won't even get to the ending. I couldn't even tell you what it's about. It's about an inn, about a stranger coming, and he's not really bringing, the stranger is not really bringing it's not bringing the danger that you think they would. I don't know. I don't know what this book was. I'm sorry, but it was just a no. And then it was a yes. So my recommendation would be a maybe. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I don't think I'm making sense. I told you I suck at this. Honestly, I think that the clip that I recorded right after closing it was so good, and I'm just mad that it's lost. So maybe that's what's happening right now in my mind. Okay, the first sentence was, they've drunk their drinks and sung their songs, and it's time for them to head home. I think I expected fantasy on this one, and I was dead wrong. And the writing style of the first sentence, I think I've expected something better as well. Have I? 4.5 stars. Yeah, nope. That's not it. I expected 4.5 stars, and I was wrong. So wrong, so wrong. I was so wrong. Okay, last but not least, and then we're going into the 2 clips that I have not lost. The Dragon Republic. Yes. This is a big yes. A big yes to the whole freaking series. I'm not sure if I can tell you much about what happens without going into spoilers, but you probably don't get here without reading the first one. I mean, I hope you don't. So you know that you are going to have to look up content warnings. This is a fantasy that keeps it real. That keeps it very, very real. And it does not romanticize war whatsoever. War is freaking war. And it's not beautiful, it's painful, it sucks, and it has really, really shitty consequences. What brings this from being a 4-star to a 5-star for me is that it looks at some consequences as well. It's not just about fighting. It's not just about fighting the big leader enemy and then you kill this person or you defeat this person or this person defeats your leader and then war is over. But then what? What are the consequences for a country and what does it mean for the people who live in that country? And what kind of dynamics are you experiencing? You have a lot of topics around refugees, around people who have lost their homes, about how they're being treated, and it's so real and it's so raw and I love it so freaking much, and it makes me hate myself for not knowing shit about the opium wars, not knowing shit about the Sino-Japanese wars, because I feel like I have missed out on a lot of education about history, not knowing, and if I did know, then I would most likely appreciate this a lot more, because this feels like it is like social commentary on history, if you get what I mean. And I don't fully understand this social commentary on history because I don't understand all the references and how it refers to real events that really happened, and I really should. So I will need to read up and educate myself on the opium wars. Meanwhile, I can just fully recommend this. You do have to have a strong stomach. You do have to realize that you are going into very raw details. I feel like this is not as tough as chapter 21 in the first book, but it still has themes that just get real, and you need to be aware of that. But I still think you should read it because it's real and reality is real. So, welcome to reality. I don't know. Anyways, I love this freaking series, and this is my April TBR, and the 3rd book is already on it, and I am looking forward to reading it. So the first sentence was, "Come on, Mingja begged, please, I want to see." I think this series does not have the strongest first sentence, but then it gets really strong. I predicted 3 out of 5 stars because, come on, CC begged is just not a strong beginning in my opinion. It's not a strong first sentence, but it is a freaking strong book. So if you haven't picked up the Poppy Wars yet, and you're at least like the tiniest bit interested in a fantasy-ish, history-ish, war-themed book that is just keeping it very real, and it's very, very good, and oh, the friendship in it is so beautiful, and the dynamics and who to trust and what to think, and oh, it's just beautiful, like from all perspectives. So go read it. Okay, let's look at the other 2 books that I finished, and then I'll be back for a second. Yellow Wife by Sidikwa Johnson is probably going to be my new favorite historical fiction of all time. It is so freaking good. Yellow Wife is following a young black woman in the is it 1850? She is born on a plantation as the daughter of the medicine woman, the black medicine woman, and the master of the plantain. plantation. And she has privileges because she is the daughter of the master. The sister does not like her at all, and then things happen and she's being sent away, and she gets into a completely different life where she sees like I think it was described as the underbelly of slavery. She unexpectedly finds herself thrust into the bowels of slavery at the infamous Devil's Half-Acre, a jail in Richmond, where the enslaved are broken, tortured, and sold every day. So simply by hearing this line, you should know that if you ever needed any form of trigger warnings or content warnings in general, this probably might be the one where you want to look them up. There is so much in there that you potentially want to be warned about if you are concerned about content warnings. And yeah, so I mean, I had to put this down a couple of times because I had to breathe, but the way that it was written was so good that I wanted to keep on reading as well at the same time. And it was just taking me through this life. And then halfway through, I learned that this is based on a real person. So all the characters are fictional, but it is inspired by the story of Mary Lumpkin and Lumpkin's jail in Richmond, Virginia. And wow, this made me like, you know, when you realize that a story is like, even if you know that a story is inspired by real events like the Civil War, like slavery, like whatever that might be that inspired you, as soon as you find out that it is inspired by a certain person's life, it just becomes an extra portion of real in a way. Oh, that touched me so much. But yeah, anyways, it was written so beautifully, and that is one of the main reasons why I love this book so much, is the way that we follow this woman so intimately. And she is so strong. She is so strong, but also so real and just trying to navigate the circumstances. And then in the beginning, she's quite naive as well, because she does only know her world, and only when she finds out what is beyond what she knows does she learn and grow. And there's so much growth in this book. There's so much pain in this book, and there's so much in this book that just touched me so deeply. I kind of want to make everybody read this, but then also at the same time, I'm like, consider the content warnings first, because I don't want you to go into a book that you can't read, because whatever, I don't know. It's amazing and I loved it, and I took it on a photo shoot today because I want this to be in my life. And I need to find out if this author, if Sadiqa Johnson, has written anything else that I could read, or like when she's publishing something next, because oh my gosh, the writing is just so amazing. It's just the way that she follows we're following our main character, and how we are so intimately, I don't know how to describe it. It's just beautiful. Anyways, what I also really loved about this is after the dedications in the beginning, the book starts with a quote, and it just sums so many things up so perfectly, and it just brings you right into the right mood. And just says, "You may choose to look the other way, but you can never say again that you didn't know," by William Wilberforce. And this sums up this book to me in a perfect way, because we are following Black women who do see the worst of slavery, but they also are navigating to better themselves, and potentially are conflicted about their position. And there's so many things that are that is talked about, things that are being used utilized, weaponized, that I haven't seen so much in historical fiction yet. Full recommendation. This is like a full 100% recommendation. So yeah, that's just, ooh, I think before we go into the epilogue, I also loved this book ends before the epilogue with as long as there was breath, there was hope. Isn't that a wonderful last sentence? I loved it. Okay. I probably have completely misjudged this book because the first sentence I feel like pushed me into the wrong direction. Yeah. So this is the first sentence. It says, Mama believed that the full moon was the most fertile night of the month, and that everything she touched held God's power. And I thought it was going to be a 3.5 stars. That is so wrong. This is such a 5-star. If I could, I would give it 6 stars. I think that it was leaning so much on God, and it felt religious, spiritual in a way that I was like, am I gonna care about this book? But it did not feel like this at all. Church did play a role in this, but not in this, like how this first sentence hinted towards me. So I don't know. It was just so good. New favorite, definitely. Loved it. I think I'm going to suggest this as a traveling book. Same as I want to suggest the Pattern Master series as a traveling book. All right. I took a little break after this one too, but I hope that I end up reading a lot still, so that this video is not just Yellow Wife. Go read Yellow Wife. And I always want to say the Yellow Wife. I don't know. It just feels like the Yellow Wife. Okay, stop. Go read something else now. Don't mind my look. I think I talked about this a couple of times during the videos. I just got my eyebrows done. I'm getting ombre eyebrows. I am so excited for this, but this the look. And yeah, these are just because I like to wear this when I'm doing my skincare, and it's cute and I love it, and you have to deal with it, so shut up. Ink and Sigil by Kevin Hearn is a wonderfully funny story about a magical being who has apprentices that keep on dying, and he then finds out that he is cursed. It's set in Scotland, and it is leaning heavily on to Irish and Scottish mythology. We have in the back of the book, we have a couple of things explained that are tied to the mostly to the Irish culture. It's well, we're talking about leprechauns. We're talking about Morrigan, the one of the goddesses. We're talking about a hobgoblin. We're talking about Tina No. We are talking about a lot of Gaelic references. This book is mainly written to be extremely funny, and I do like the vibe of it a lot. It puts me into this funny reading mood. There's a lot of the writing style just tries to be funny, and for the most part it definitely succeeds. I just think that sometimes it goes a little bit overboard for me, and for me it's just that I don't have that long of an attention span to stay in the same in this type of humor, because I get tired of it, and this is why I'm only giving it 4 out of 5 stars, not 5 out of 5 stars. I got a little bit annoyed by the over-the-top, I'm trying to be really funny here kind of humor. And one of the things that actually really annoyed me was that the hobgoblin is called Buck Foy and actually makes a joke about, well, not him, but some other character makes a joke about fuckboy, about Buck Foy when you switch the first letters, it feels like just a very immature, boyish joke that keeps on coming up. And this is the vibe that this is leaning towards at times. I do think that a lot of people will get a lot of enjoyment out of this. It's just not something that I can fully commit to and be like, yay, this is like, it's just maybe 100 pages too much for me to be on that humor wave, so to speak. So yeah, it's fun. It's a cute story. I think that the mystery, it's like, this book is like a mystery in a urban fantasy setting in Scotland. And I do get a lot of atmospheric vibes that I enjoy. I do think that there's part of a mystery. Will you stop beeping? There's a lot of stuff in this mystery that is okay. I don't think it's the most complex, fun, interesting mystery. It's okay, it's fun. I think that you mainly need to read this for the writing style and for the funny, humoresque atmosphere. I do think that I prefer writing style when it's fluffy, funny, lighthearted, similar to Hank Green's An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, where it's not going that much over the top. It just feels very relatable and young and fresh and like the spoken word, and not this over the top. I can't give you a good example because I am holding the German version in my hand, and it just feels like a lot of it is happening while you're reading it. It's not like one joke, it's the mood. Anywho, the first sentence. There we go. Dead apprentices tend to tarnish a man's reputation after a while. And I predicted a 5 out of 5 stars, probably because I really thought this writing style was fun. You am able to see a little bit of the writing style. I just felt like we're not getting to catch a breath from this. It just continues on exactly like this, and it's just getting a little bit too much. So I was a little wrong and right at the same time. All right, so overall, I think that my reading month of March was really, really good. I enjoyed the total amount of books that I read, even though I felt very slumpy in the last 2 weeks. I still read a good number of books that other people only read in a month or so I can't complain. And even though I wanted to read like a gazillion more, yes, I am a drama queen. I know that I'm dramatizing everything. Obviously, it's not a gazillion. It's 2 gazillions. But that's like, for my reading speed and the amount I read, it's still okay. It doesn't feel a lot, but I wish it was a lot. But it was mostly quality books that I enjoyed. There were a few books that are on the, like, hitting my favorite shelf. A few books that are catapulting it into like all-time favorite status. So that's a good month. It is. So I should be satisfied, and I am. But I didn't get to a couple of books that I really, really, really wanted to get to. And do you know what? There's a TBR game coming, and this TBR game is gonna come with consequences, and you're gonna love the consequences. And I'm gonna have to live with consequences a lot more because, yeah. What is it, like 30 books on my TBR, and how many did I read? What, like 18, 19? There's gonna be consequences coming my way. And that's the tea for today. All right, this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, even though I really suck at summarizing and reviewing books after I read a couple in between. Please forgive me for that. You're just gonna have to live with it. I still well, let me know if you're still going to pick up one of the books that I talked about, and I don't know. subscribe, comment, hit the like button, and please come back to my channel. I hope to see you again real soon. Until then, bye!
Just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here together? If I could stop the time, don't you know that I would? 'Cause I'm just loving